Alright, so today we're going to be talking about cards you should pick up as soon as possible. Although we are approaching the off season, this is the time to get some cards. So you don't have to scramble and get them for higher prices when there's some support announced, when the format starts again, and overall when there's more hype surrounding cards. You're better off to just get them right now, and it's better to be safe than sorry. And if you have any ideas about which cards people should be picking up, feel free to share them in the comments down below. Also, like the video if you like it, make sure to ding the bell so you are notified every time I post. Make sure you're subbed and share the video with your friends. And yeah, with that we can go ahead and get started. The first thing I wanted to talk about is Vanadium, and this is actually literally the perfect time. I'm sorry, my eye is itching. This is the perfect time to talk about it because the support was just announced and it seems really nice, because Vanadium a lot of times was caught up in these weird situations where it wasn't exactly super heavy samurai, but it did very similar things, so people sort of pushed it to the sidelines, and then just during your plays sometimes you would be stuck with kind of a horrible board if you get hand trapped, or just a lackluster board overall because you couldn't do enough, the engine was a bit too big, and just it was the B combo deck, the B tier of the synchro combo deck compared to super heavy samurai. But now with the samurai deck sort of out of the picture, like out of commission for the time being, Vanadium might just take its place. Now there is still potential in the super heavy samurai deck, but I feel like especially with the new support, Vanadium is the way to go if you want to play some kind of combo deck. There's other decks out there as well, but if this is something you're into, if this is the type of deck you like, I would suggest getting it because it's only going to become more expensive. The cards were mainly just released, and with the exception of Visa Starfrost, which is getting some kind of reprint, so maybe don't snatch that, but just get like Vanadium cards, I would suggest to pick them ASAP. It really does seem like it's going to be kind of nice moving forward with very formidable boards, especially post the support, and it was only announced in the OCG, so there is still some time left. But just overall, if the deck starts to become even better, you might just want to be ready and have the cards beforehand. And moving on to some other decks, mainly it's decks, there's a couple cards, but mainly it's just cores and archetypes, because the next one is for hire, and just a lot of them are just very smart to pick up in the entirety, and then you just have it ready to play it at a later date. And with for hire, this deck was kind of hyped together with Sprite and also Runic, but of course we were already talking about this in the last video, but Runic fell off because of the need to play many hand traps, which Runic just couldn't afford. And right now with the ban list sort of shifting things, Runic is going to be on the rise as well as Sprite, and this version was discussed before. People did top with it, people did play it, but because Runic fell off, this fell off together with it. But this doesn't mean that the deck doesn't have immense potential. It's just a very solid mid-range deck. It might be one of the best, if not the best version of Sprite Runic moving forward, and the engine is just insanely cheap. It pairs very well together with Sprite and Runic, so like I would suggest investing into it because it's not going to cost you much, and it does seem like a very fun deck to play. So yeah, that's going to be it for Fur Hire, and then moving on to another deck, it's actually going to be Pearly. Now, this might be a little controversial, but like I said, now is the time to get cards. And if we look at side sets just overall, they tend to release archetypes that do fairly well. And we can just look at the precedent set by Labyrinth, by Punk, by even Exosister. You know, there's Runic, there's the Adventure Engine. Like, there's just a lot of archetypes coming out of side sets that get support as well and become even better. And Pearly, of course, does have the confirmed support in Duelist Nexus. And the cards from a side set being amazing defenders are, in my opinion, going to go even higher in price if the deck proves itself to still be viable post the ban list hits, post Duelist Nexus. So I would just suggest getting them right now. Some prices might even drop even more. People might be willing to get rid of their cores, thinking like there's not going to be much future when it comes to Pearly, but I disagree. I think it has potential, and with the support it's going to be even better. So I would suggest picking it up. And another archetype, again, we're on the topic of archetypes, is going to be Vanquish Soul. Vanquish Soul coming out of Wild Survivors does seem like the best part of the set, obviously, and it does seem like it has tons of potential. It has a very interesting playstyle, and if that's something that suits you, I would suggest picking it up because it's literally just bound to get some kind of really good support. And like I said, it just seems very fun, really interesting. And there are some tops that people managed to achieve in the last format, mind you. So the tops that, like, here in Slovenia, we had a Vanquisol top 8 at Nationals. Vanquisol was in the finals of Italian Nationals, and both of these events were still played under the last list because the list wasn't in effect yet. So that's something to keep in mind. With the format changing, Vanquisol is going to be probably even better. There's a lot of different things you can do with it. It's really, really interesting. And then we come to the topic of prices. I already talked at length about this in my podcast episode with Galzo about like side sets, prices, all of that. I get that it's expensive, but it's going to become even more expensive if you don't invest into it now. If this is a deck that will be like your go-to moving forward, because like I said, and I keep saying, I do think it has potential, so I wanted to mention it. The next thing we have on the list is Axo Synchro Stardust Dragon. Now, I already mentioned this card. I think it was the last video I did on the topic of cards you should pick up. Axo Synchro was in there, and since then, the price went up. And then it went down again, but it is still higher than where it was at the point of making that video a couple months back. So at that point in time, I said the card is going to go up in price because synchro summoning is going to be everywhere. There's a lot of synchro support, not to mention we have the Assault Synchron coming in Battles of Legend. There's some kind of synchro support going to be happening in Duelist Nexus, going to be released there. And just overall, synchro summoning is hyped and Axo Synchro is just kind of busted. So it is going to spike. And in my opinion, it actually might be like in a couple months time, it might be one of these cards where you're like, damn, why didn't I get it when it was like 30 euros? I should have gotten it. And it kind of feels that way. I don't know, I might be wrong. It might just be very steady at 30, but I don't think so. I think it is going to go higher, and I would suggest if you are going to be one of the synchro players, I would suggest just getting it. It's like 35 euros or something. It's not the cheapest card, but again, it's not the most expensive one either. And you just don't want it happening where it's going to be like 60 or 70 euros for some reason, because it just becomes really busted, even more than now. We'll see what happens, but you know, don't say I didn't warn you. So there's that. And as for the last thing on this list, I wanted to mention Dinos. And it doesn't seem like it's going to be the best meta deck or something, but I still wanted to talk about it because there was the support from Wild Survivors. There is some Dino stuff coming out also in Duelist Nexus, if I'm not mistaken. And just overall, when the format starts, the tried and true decks are the ones that are like doing kind of well, especially at like locals and regionals levels, when people are just used to them. And if Dino fits your playstyle, I would suggest getting it. Everything is insanely cheap, and you can even pick up the collector rare versions of Oviraptor and UCT if you want. So like I said, if that's something that suits you, I would suggest buying it just because it's very, very cheap. And it might become even better in the future. And that's actually going to round off today's video. If you liked it, please make sure to like it. Also share any and all of your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you're looking to get cards somewhere, you can get them on Card Market if you want. Of course, sub, ding the bell, do all of that. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.